but I am delighted to have Jamie Schulteis, one of our strategic partners, join me today in a research project that we are doing together, which I've mentioned a few times, called Industry in Motion. So we call this work Industry in Motion, and I'm sorry, Jamie, I took your slide, because that is exactly what we see across media, events, and data information services. Business models are shifting, revenue expectations are rising, AI is accelerating decision cycles, and yet for most of the sector, there has been very little shared benchmarking. So leaders have been making major bets with limited visibility into where they stand relative to peers. So this study is meant to change that. What we're sharing today is an early look at what the market is telling us, where momentum is real, where the friction is real, and where the gap between strategy and execution is starting to show. So Jamie, let's start with the market shift underneath it all.
Thank you, Heather. So for a long time, B2B and B2C operated with very different assumptions. I think we can all agree on that in this room. B2B really focused on demand gen, ABM, lead quality, and pipeline contribution. B2C focused on scale, traffic, audience reach, and advertising yield. Today, those lines are fading, and B2C businesses are using audience intelligence to create more targeted, higher value commercial offerings, while B2B businesses are adopting monetization approaches that once looked much more like consumer media. And across both, data is this unifying common language. It's becoming this core asset that connects audience, product, and revenue. And that really matters because competition is no longer defined by these tidy little category definitions that we once had. And the winners are increasingly the companies that can translate trusted audience, behavioral and transactional data into products, insight, and measurable growth. And that is why this benchmark matters now and why Heather has been asking you to participate in this. Convergence really sounds strategic, but operationally we know it is messy. So Heather, the next slide shows just how wide that gap really is.
Yeah, and this is where the research gets blunt. Executives told us they expect data monetization to grow roughly 10% of total revenue to 23% within the next 24 months. And that's not a side bet. That is a serious reallocation of enterprise value. But when those same leaders assess their own data maturity on a 5-level scale, 83% place themselves at a level 3 or below. So let's sit down with that for a second. We have an industry expecting a material larger share of revenue coming from an entirely new revenue source, which is data, while most companies still describe their own capabilities as foundational, emerging or operational, but not predictive or transformative. And the predictive part, that word, is a very critical word because the predictive data is where the value lies. That does not mean ambition is wrong. It means the infrastructure underneath the ambition is not there yet. And this is the pattern we see again and again. Strong belief in the revenue upside paired with a middle stage operating model. So strategy is moving and capability is trying to catch up. And Jamie, the next slide shows where leaders say that friction is most acute.
And the barriers they are telling, as you can see, when executives were asked what is blocking monetization, the top two answers were technology infrastructure and data quality and, technology infrastructure and data quality and consistency. The barriers were not pricing, they were not market demand, they were not even regulation. So the biggest obstacles are foundational, and that tells us something really important. You cannot monetize what you cannot access, and you definitely cannot monetize what you do not trust. So if customer data lives in one place, your audience data lives in another, and behavioral signals are in a third, every downstream function weakens. Product gets slower, sales gets less precise, and AI gets less useful, which we've heard repeatedly in most of these sessions. Revenue teams spend more time reconciling than executing, something I know I can certainly empathize with. The challenge is it's not just technical. So leaders also cited lack of internal expertise and customer education. So even where the raw ingredients exist, many organizations still lack the connective tissue to commercialize them well. This is not a theory problem. It is not an operational problem, period. Right? This is truly an operational problem. So Heather, that brings us to the business model shift itself.
Exactly. This slide is useful because it shows both the monetization models being used now and the pressures driving the transformation. On the monetization side, the most common path today is premium CPM on first-party segments, followed by standalone data and insight products as data-as-a-service offerings. Some companies are syndicating audiences, some are building partnerships, some are moving towards predictive products. About 10% aren't monetizing their data at all. Now look at the transformation drivers. The top-rated driver is the opportunity created by the new AI capabilities. Right behind it, intensified competition for customer budgets and market share. And close behind that, Gen AI's impact on search, including AI summaries and zero-click behavior, which is forcing many businesses to rethink traffic-dependent economics. That's the real headline here. AI is not acting on a stable business model. And that's really where the uncertainty lies, and it's why I think we're seeing some very interesting differences in the data between what you want to do and where you are today. So the question is no longer whether models are converging, they are. The question is whether leadership teams can convert that convergence into a sharper revenue model before the market does it for them. So with that, the full benchmark is coming. Here is the QR code to again participate. We'll also send you a subtext message with the link. Once this data is, once we have finished fielding the survey, we'll share full findings with everybody. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.